Hey guys, I don't know if you knew this, but Josh Allen got married. Why does anyone care? You know, one of the things that bothers me the most about society now is we focus more on people than ideas. People gravitate towards like, hey, what's a good story? No, they don't want a good story. They just want to fixate on one person and like fanboy or fangirl out about their entire life. People talk about my wedding all the time. It has to do with the fact that the gentleman who gave, my best man gave the speech and then his pants broke. To another edition of the Rock Pal Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And it feels good to be back, everybody. It feels really good to be back in this chair. It's been what?
It's been like
3 weeks?
Roughly 3 weeks. It's definitely our longest hiatus that we've ever had, for sure.
I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time, though, right? What really has been going on in the NFL or with the Buffalo Bills?
Easy. The beef between Built-in Buffalo and Trainwreck Sports. I don't know if you paid attention to that while you were gone.
No. Why don't you give me the cliff notes?
Built-in Buffalo stealing stuff from Trainwreck, like verbatim. And it was about Josh's wedding. Too. So I don't know.
Imagine pulling an Ocean's 11 and trying to steal something that has no value.
Yeah. Zach put out a post that was like, hey, not for nothing, I know that Alan's getting married this weekend, but he's going to be in Buffalo for OTAs, even though he's getting married. And then Built in Buffalo put it out and claimed it as their own. And then Zach Sheldon was like, hey, you should probably tag me in that. I said those same words. And then Built in Buffalo was like, you blocked.
Here's what I don't understand. I hate this. I hate all of it. I want you to see my face, see me, and hear me. Social media is the worst thing to happen pretty much across the board. Like, I love memes. Few things make me happier. Whiskey and memes. Those are two of my favorite things on the face of the earth. And yet, that's my meme delivery vehicle is social media, but I would gladly give it up at this point, Chris. I feel like all it does is make everything worse.
We only have a Twitter handle for this show. We started the show and we got Twitter to promote the show.
I can't wait for the day I get to burn it down.
That's why we don't have separate accounts. Everybody's like, why don't you guys just have separate accounts?
My favorite's how everyone goes, oh, how come your platform isn't bigger? I go, do you want to know why? Because I get hammered and say some really awful things after Bills games. I make a lot of people really angry. So it's like you watch the follower count go up and up and up and up and up and up, and then precipitously down after a couple. And it's just hilarious because then people go, well, your platform. I don't have a platform. I'm a moron with a drink in one hand and a phone in the other. You shouldn't be listening to me anyway. No one should be. Like, I'm not a source of information on social media for people. Turn it off. But I do love memes, which is why I stick around. I also love whiskey. And that's where I spent the last week, was in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, which I got yelled at by a bartender for because I was trying too hard to sound like I was from the neighborhood. He goes, I understand you want to roll the tongue and say Louisville, but you sound like you're hammered and I'm going to cut you off if you don't stop saying it that way. It's like, all right. When in Rome, you tell me, all right. It was a great time. Castle and Key Distillery, Old Forester, Angel's Envy, Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey. I got to see some of the best distilleries. If not tour them, at least go have drinks there and see the property. It's pretty much some of the best that Kentucky has to offer. It was amazing. Drinks everywhere, amazing food thanks to a pilot who's got some really great recommendations. And then I even found a legitimate speakeasy that I found out about because of the locals. like literal 1921 speakeasy that's been kind of refurbished with some niceties. Chris, the pictures of it were pretty awesome, right?
Yeah. You showed me some pictures. They look good.
And then obviously when you're in Louisville, you got to stop by Churchill Downs. Got to go have a mint julep, watch the ponies run a little bit, try to place a bet. I defy you. Nobody really understands how horse gambling works. If you say that you do, you're a liar. That's it.
You know who's really good at betting horses?
Who?
Eddie Olczyk.
Oh, no.
For those that don't know, Eddie Olczyk is a regional NHL analyst for I believe it's the Kraken TV, and then he's also on TNT. He did 2 years ago, he perfectly guessed the top 5 in the Kentucky Derby. The dude is knowledgeable about hockey and horses.
Just watching, just to go to the wager window, and they're like, okay, so what do you wager? I was like, I have no fucking idea. I got a guy to laugh because I was like, here's $10. He goes, okay, what? I go, I don't know, do something.
Take my money.
And he was like, well, what do you? I was like, what's a trifecta? He goes, well, what horses? And I was like, I don't know, how many do I need for a trifecta? And he just burst out laughing.
3, obviously.
I was like, I don't know, man. I'm like Ricky Bobby at the raft after his first race. I don't even know what to do with my hands right now. I've got $10. Where do I put it? I mean it. And then he tried to explain, and there was just no time.
Did you bet Santa's Little Helper?
No, but I did. I did bet on a horse that I believe the horse came in third because they were talking shit about the horse during the when you're walking around the downs, they have their own in-house TV network running on boards, and they were like, "Oh, this horse's name is Excite," or they were like, "The horse's name is Excite, but there's nothing exciting about its finishes," and blah blah blah. I'm like, "Well, that's mean. It's not the horse's fault."
Yeah, it's a fat jockey.
It's not the horse's fault. Stop trashing the horse. So then I was like, you know what? I hope that horse wins. It didn't win, but it did all right. I mean, it was also a Saturday, something they call a preview. I assume it's like NASCAR qualifying. I have no idea. I don't know how any of this works. I still think one of the coolest moments, though, was getting recognized by somebody while we were at Buffalo Trace. Guy from just outside of Indianapolis. He just hey, because he saw I was wearing a Bills Henley. Saw he was like, hey, go Bills. And I was like, go Bills. And then all of a sudden he stops and goes, you look familiar. I was like, there it is. And my wife just shook her head. Just damn it. Not again. And it's funny, Chris, that is our crowd, right? Guys in their 40s and 50s. Hey, the types of guys who would be rain or shine hanging out at a distillery.
I've looked at our YouTube algorithm, and it breaks down age groups.
Are we crushing the 50 and 60-year-old demographic?
Surprisingly, we're 100% male.
Surprisingly, we're
100% male, and then 18 to 35. No one in that bracket likes us at all.
Well, I don't like them, so I guess we're even. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. But no, it was a great time. I will absolutely be going back. I got to see if I can round up a group of guys for a road trip down there, because I think I can only make my wife go away with me on vacation once a year. As you can imagine, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Me, free reign, all the booze I can get my hands on in a city like that's entirely walkable. I mean, actually, she may have made out the best because she got to watch back-to-back nights of hockey in complete silence, because both nights I came back and just nosedived directly into the mattress and fell asleep at the sun was still out.
Wow. That must be a long day.
That is how you vacation, folks.
But you did bring me back this. This is as cheap as they come. JTS Brown Bottled and Bond. It is from Heaven Hill Distillery. I don't know if you would like it, because behind you there, in that bottom corner next to the light switch,
the JW Dant.
JW Dant, also from Heaven Hill. This, I get vanilla on it. I've got some in my presidential Glencairn. I do get some vanilla, but it's not as heavy as a JW Dant.
The JW Dant was awful.
This is pretty good. You can only like get it in like either Kentucky and maybe Virginia. They don't sell it anywhere. Probably it's so cheap. It's delicious.
Yeah, I came home with quite an assortment of goodies. Brought Chris something we're going to make for the live show tonight. But I also, during my time in Mexico and then the days that I
Did you find your dad?
No, I did find Montezuma's Revenge, though. I'm the only moron on earth who could book a work trip 72 hours away from a vacation I planned on taking to an emerging country where I would get the stomach flu. Like I'm the only person dumb enough to pull this off. I'd eat white rice for days in the run up to me leaving for the trip. Really, it was touch and go on the drive down there too. I was terrified, but everything worked out for the best. But with that said, I have missed some things, and I can't wait to talk about it. Chris, let's hit him with the update. The Bills news update. We haven't done a lot of these. It's summertime, though. We get to start breaking it back out.
Oh, yeah, and we're also doing shows. It's been like 18 days.
Hey, guys, I don't know if you knew this, but Josh Allen got married. And I want to know, why does anyone care? Why is this news? You know, one of the things that bothers me the most about society now is we focus more on people than ideas. And like people gravitate towards like, hey, what's a good story? No, they don't want a good story. They just want to fixate on one person and like fanboy or fangirl out about their entire life. And I find it weird. You know, like I see people, you were just talking, at the top of the show, we were talking about how two content creators in the Buffalo market are fighting over who got to say that a guy was going to skip.
Josh
wedding
Allen
practice.
Josh Allen was going to be in Buffalo the week of his wedding. And
why is that the basis for grown adults? Like, just. There's phrases I want to use, but for the purposes of YouTube, I'm not gonna. But I don't understand why this has to become a measuring contest of nonsense when no one should care about this. Chris, when's I saw people tweeting like, oh, where are the pictures? Chris, you got married last year. How many times have you looked at your wedding photos since then?
A handful of times, but that's only for printing things.
Sure.
Like if you go, I mean, they're not even our wedding photos, they're our engagement photos, because our engagement photos were done at Helium Comedy Club in Buffalo. And for Christmas, I took a shot from our engagement photos and I put them on coasters. So if you want to go upstairs and have a cocktail in the kitchen, I'll throw you a coaster with me and Jessica on it on stage at Helium.
Do you know how often I look at like people? This isn't just me patting myself on the back. People talk about my wedding all the time and about how it was like one of the most fun weddings they've attended. Like still to this day, I get that.
Well,
remember when Reed almost tackled a guy?
Yes, he was in a 3-point stance with Bob Gutierrez, but your wedding was memorable because Dave Gutierrez disappeared, who was a part of the wedding, and reappeared in street clothes.
As one does when you're...
It was the wildest thing.
No, I don't think that was the wildest thing, because I was about to say, there's only two reasons I look at my wedding photos at all, and it has nothing to do with me or my wife. It has to do with the fact that the gentleman who gave, my best man, gave the speech, and then his pants broke. And he came to me and said, hey, is it cool if I change? And I was like, sure. Of course you can change. Like broken pants, it's not going to help you. You're not going to be able to dance. It's going to be fine. Change. Thinking he had like a change of clothes in the car. And he came back in swimming trunks.
Oh, yeah.
See, redact that. Bleep that out. He shall remain anonymous. But then the photographer had like a panic attack, and he comes over to me and he's like, I can shoot around him. And I was like, John, remember all those meetings where you were real cocky when I told you, hey, me and my friends booze and dumb things happen when we get together. And you were like, no, I've seen it all. Shut up and take the pictures, John. It was that. And he caught one perfect shot when we were standing there at the altar about to say I do. And the officiant gets to the portion of the speech where he's like, if anybody knows why these couples shouldn't be joined, speak now or forever hold your peace. And there's a picture of me giving just the meanest scowl just out over the crowd. And I remember what I was thinking. I'm like, somebody, because I know my idiot friends. It's like, say it. I've watched the movie Wedding Crashers so many times. Ever since that scene where Vince Vaughn just punches that guy out at his wedding, like I've had the itch. I was like, please let me relive that. Please give me that delicious moment at my own wedding. I don't understand why people obsess about what Josh Allen does in his personal life. And I think Haley Steinfeld fans are just as bad.
Yes.
Like she's.
Do you know what the most important piece of information to come out of the wedding was that would be of interest to you and I?
No.
Larry David was there. Larry David got invited to Josh Allen's wedding.
See, now that's something I'm interested in. Why the hell do either of you know Larry David? I need to know more about that.
Plus, haven't you seen he did an appearance, I don't even remember when it was, but he was on Rich Eisen, and he was talking, he had a diatribe about destination weddings. And he's like, I don't go to weddings unless they're within an hour of where I live. So there you go, Larry David at Josh Allen's wedding. I picked that up today, FYI.
So
Hulk Hogan's beer.
Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer, which is just going to make a fascinating documentary someday about the rapid rise and fall of a beer maker. Like, I don't know that a company ever hit the market with so much steam and then fizzled so quickly. It's pretty wild. It may be crap. But while I taste this, Chris, I never did get your thoughts on Hard Knocks. What do you think, since I know you're a broadcast junkie and you're a sports media junkie, what do you think about the Bills being on Hard Knocks this year?
I mean, I'm going to watch it because I'm going to watch it for research because it's a part of our thing here. We do a Bills show. I'm going to have to watch it. But I think Hard Knocks should have been canceled 8 years ago. I think it's just uninteresting. I think teams are uninterested in it. And if you've read online, Bills brass are not happy that they're doing it. And they're going to have final say on what gets shown. So they're going to have the cut of the first episode, and then they're going to give it to Brandon Beane, and they're going to go watch this. And
he's going to redact all of it?
He's going to redact half of it, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
It's going to be
boring.
It's going to be Ron Swanson's medical history just completely redacted.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. You know what's funny, though? I give them credit. If you may not like a lot of the things that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott do, but there's one piece of news that broke this week that I think you have a hard time arguing with, and that's the culture. McDermott had voiced some of his concerns about how having Hard Knocks in the building does kind of impact team building, and it's intrusive to the process, right? And he's not wrong. But I think if there was ever a team that had the right fabric to kind of hold up to that, it's probably the Buffalo Bills. And I think a perfect example of that is the Terrence Gray promotion that got announced this week. For those of you who remember Terrence Gray, a Bills player, head of player personnel, both pro and amateur scouting. He's been, he interviewed for a couple jobs, and he was thought to be a finalist at one point for the Jacksonville job this year, before ultimately they passed on to whatever that guy's like. Who did Jacksonville hire?
I don't even know, but
did they hire the coach who said Duval wrong first?
Yes, they hired the coach first.
Duval.
Yeah, Duval. Yeah, if you're a GM, if you're looking for your first GM job, you got to go with an organization that's going to let you pick your own coach. Mm-hmm. I would never, regardless of situation, I would never want be like, no, let me pick my coach. No, I'm going to have this weird guy with a mustache do it. He's going to pick some weird dude from Tampa, and you're just going to come in and be the GM and get players that he wants.
You get hired to an organization that you like, the Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott situation. McDermott gets hired. Doug Whaley's still here, but unbeknownst to Doug Whaley and his entire staff, it was already kind of a wink and nod agreement of, hey, when this draft is over, you're out. And my guy Brandon Beane's going to come in and help me fix everything that you've done here. And it was already established that they were going to have a good working relationship, and that was going to be the plan for the Buffalo Bills. So Terrence Gray getting this promotion to AGM, I think, is kind of an attaboy. Like, hey, okay, you didn't get the jobs that you were kind of in the running for this year. Let me help you do something that's a resume builder for you, right? His duties probably won't change that much. And at the same time, they'll be somewhat expanded so that he, in theory, would be taking on more responsibility that may help him get over the hump the next time he's up for one of these jobs.
I'd expect him to be more involved with, like, I guess when, like, camp hits and, like, after week 2 or 3 of the preseason and you start to see these cuts roll in that are... You know, like the way we got Lloyd or Malloy back in the day.
Sure.
I think he'll be more involved in those situations to help build his resume.
Like, if you take a look at the history of that position for the Buffalo Bills, though, it speaks to a culture. You know, Brandon Beane gets hired in technically it's 2017 he gets hired after Doug Whaley gets ousted after the draft. His first draft is in 2018. His first free agency and draft period isn't until 2018. In 2019, Brandon Beane's assistant GM, Brian Gaine, gets promoted to GM of the Texans. Now, he only lasted 18 months, but your AGM immediately got poached because people thought very highly of that guy. Not just because Brandon Beane was good, but because at that point it was too early to tell. It's only 2.5 years into his tenure?
Yeah.
But Gainey was thought of very highly in NFL circles, and it was considered a really big get for Brandon Beane that he was even able to get him into the building. 2 years later, Joe Shane, Beane's then assistant general manager, gets promoted to GM of the Titans. Now, he, like Gainey, Giants, and he showed his ass on national TV on the aforementioned Hard Knocks. In 2022, the following year, the recently promoted Dan Morgan, then at the time assistant general manager, gets promoted to GM of the Panthers. You're seeing a pattern here, right? 2024, Brian Gainey's re-promoted to assistant general manager, then took interviews with the Jets this offseason, while Terrence Gray took interviews for other other teams this offseason. Beane has a strong history of not just like, oh, I got a guy hired somewhere. It's not so much that, it's that he has a way of getting people with upward mobility and who are well regarded in the NFL into the building and kind of into his cabinet as a GM. And I think there's evidence that shows you that's part of what makes the Bills so successful. It's their ability to hire and convince guys with great football minds and that upward mobility to come in and take jobs where they know they'll kind of rise through the ranks, being savvy in player and pro scouting, and then build your organizational framework around this staff of really successful people who will inevitably leave you. But then when other people see that, Chris, it kind of becomes like a highway effect, right? Like people start seeing that and they go, well, shit, if I want to fast track my career, Brandon Beane's a successful GM, one of the most successful GMs of the last decade. I could do a lot worse than working for that guy. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that culture and that cultivating good employees who are good football minds and make sound decisions themselves help Beane make really sound pragmatic decisions that have quietly been the backbone of our team's success by and large. I mean, it's not just, hey, who do we draft and who do we sign in free agency and who do we get? There's a lot more decision making that goes into it, like Chris, like you just alluded to. when there's cuts made, when you go out to try to get a guy. Last year, as the head of pro personnel and player scouting, like NFL player scouting, camp's winding down, and all of a sudden the Buffalo Bills make a trade for Brandon Codrington. And at the time you go, oh, okay, well, that feels like a throwaway move. And that guy goes on to be a really good returner for the Buffalo Bills for the 2024 season. So there's some of that you have to be able to cultivate. And if you want to make really good decisions on a budget, you have to have those guys who can help you make those decisions. There's also knowing when to cut bait. Chris, Cody Ford, he still has a job in the NFL, but the Bills were smart enough not even to try to retain him for a minimum salary, right?
Yeah.
You just see what you can get for him and move on. Letting guys who were part of that early success of the Bills, John Feliciano, Devin Singletary, the decisions to let those guys walk probably weren't made easily, but they did it.
Or via trade.
Because
I'm thinking Cordy Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
Cordy Glenn helped you get Josh Allen, right?
Sure. Even though he was a quality left tackle, you say, okay, if I want my quarterback, I have to be willing to give up something of value. Can I get by with a Cordy Glenn? And is this Deion Dawkins going to be good enough that someday he might be able to take over that mantle? Because I'm going to need an answer there if Josh Allen pans out. The idea to cut bait on Stephon Diggs when you did, that took balls. It also took not just external scouting and, watching the waiver wire and, because Chris, what did we do? We went out and replaced a Stephon Diggs with a Mac Hollins in free agency. No, it was scouting your own room and having people there from an evaluation standpoint who said, look, I think we can still make this work. We don't have to have Stephon Diggs in order to have a good passing game. The rest was history. Josh Allen became an MVP. And then there's also the idea of gauging the market for a player and knowing when to stick to your guns and when to negotiate, because that's just as important as cutting fat checks when it comes to free agency. Think about the Shaq Lawson scenario. We made him an offer. The Dolphins offered him more. And he said, look, I far be it from me to turn down an extra 2.5 a year. I got to go. And Brandon Beane said, hey, no hard feelings. We valued you where we valued you. And then 2 years later, he ended up back in Buffalo.
Yes. That seems to be a recurring thing where
Jordan
players
Phillips
come back. Trey White, Jordan Phillips. Jordan
Phillips went out to free agency and got $12 or $13 million a year from the Cardinals. And the Bills said, okay, that wasn't our number. But they stayed in touch with him. He even said as much in his introductory press conference the first time we brought him back. And he said he's like Beane never really he kept, when I got injured, he reached out just to see if I was doing okay. It's not just Brandon Beane making these decisions. He's got a lot of people on his staff who are helping him do it. The idea not to pursue Gabe Davis, knowing what his market was going to be. It takes surrounding yourself with the right type of people in order to do that. And so I think it's a good thing, seeing Terrence Gray get that promotion, because it's just another step towards that guy getting his GM job. And also other people seeing that and saying, hey, if I want to fast track my career and I want to work with other quality front office personnel, go to Buffalo. And we as a franchise reap the benefits of it. Now, there are some other notes in here in terms of promotions that I did laugh at. Chris, do you know that they have a guy named Warren Zarilla?
No.
On their staff? He was promoted to assistant director of application development. That Bills app sucks. That Bills app stinks.
I don't even have it.
It stinks on ice. I have to have it because that's how I email you your tickets every Sunday. So hopefully this promotion helps improve the quality of that nonsense. The name stuck out because the last name is Zarilla. I tried to Google the guy to see if there was a picture of him. If he's rotund or if he's a heavyset gentleman and he does not go by Zarilla the Gorilla, it's just a massive failure by him, his family, his friends. It's a failure across the board. I also did notice, Chris, that Andy Gosper, Her name is Andrea Gosper. So it's funny. Terrence Gray promoted to assistant general manager. Directly underneath it is a bullet point in the Democrat and Chronicle that Andy Gosper was promoted to assistant to the general manager. What? Can you imagine like that she's the team's Dwight Schrute?
Correct.
It's kind of funny knowing that there is a Dwight Schrute inside the Bills organization. And then how do you think she introduces herself?
She blocks all fire exits and sets a couple of fires.
Is a training exercise for the office?
Yes.
I live close enough to the stadium. If I hear fire sirens, I'm going to know it was Andy. It's just hilarious that there is an assistant GM and an assistant to the GM. Like, I don't know why, but that makes me laugh really, really hard. But so I think, again, it's just good for the reputation of this football team. And it's kind of proof that there is a culture here of just appreciation, of cultivation of talent, graduation of that talent that begets more talent entering the organization. And it's that type of thing that when you compare that to also what goes on the field, it means you've got a front office and a coaching staff that both have a process and are really good at, again, the ethos of what they're trying to do here. They know who they are. They know how they want to operate. And it's produced one of the higher quality, consistently higher quality products in the NFL. The flip side to that, and the kind of maybe the fallout of this, is that the Bills rookies, our first 3 picks, Chris, aren't signed yet. And yet everybody is here practicing.
Makes sense.
Everybody's participating, even though none of them are under contract yet. I think that is a byproduct of the culture that's been built here. Take a rip here.
Oh, don't swig out of it. You were in Mexico.
I wanted to upset you so much.
Get a glass.
Speaking of upsetting, this Real American Beer, it's about as real as Hulk Hogan's guitar playing during the I'm a Real American music video. For those of you unfamiliar, pause this right now and go watch it. It says it's a light beer, but it tastes like Yingling. It's pretty bad.
I like Yingling.
I think that what gets lost in this is that not all teams have this sort of culture. And in fact, some of them have the complete opposite. Look at the Bengals. Maxwell Hairston being here, practicing and getting time with the players, FaceTime with Trey White. He's getting time with his position coaches. He's dug in, even though he doesn't have a contract signed yet. You go back to the Bengals and you look at what's going on with their first-round pick, Shamar Stewart. And I think it's telling what team has culture and which one doesn't, and whose culture is positive. I mean, you look at what goes on with the Bengals. Right now, they're haggling over offset language in his contract. And Stewart's agent saying, look, this has never existed in any other contract for any first rounder you've signed before. We're not signing it. It has nothing to do, it's not like he's haggling over money. It's not like he wants more money than what he's slotted to make. That's the whole point of the rookie slotting system. It's supposed to eliminate that haggling. Nope, this is just him saying, no, you're not going to rob me. If something happens to me, you're not going to rob me of future guaranteed money. It's crazy that they would even come with that kind of an offer, considering the position he plays at defensive end and the situation they've kind of created for themselves by not paying Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like that Trey Hendrickson situation has gotten public. Like it's not good. In fact, it's getting contentious to the point where Trey Hendrickson's very comfortable going to the media, openly talking about how he's taking it personally, the way that they've chosen to handle this. So you've burned, you have a bridge that's on fire between you and one of your cornerstone players. And now you're going to pick another contract fight with the guy that you brought in to replace that guy? It almost sounds like the people making the decisions here don't have good people in their corner. The way that maybe Brandon Beane did when he first got here to Buffalo.
That makes sense.
Our culture. You
know how it is.
Our culture.
You just drove through Cincinnati. You saw how much of a dump that city is.
It's funny because their skyline is actually nicer than I wanted to admit. Like when you see the city proper,
when you come in from the north side.
It's really cool looking.
Yeah,
for about 8 blocks.
And then you get into the waterfront.
And then the whole thing just goes to shit real quick. Kind of like every Bengals season. It looks like it might be cool, but it turns out it's just a dump. When Brandon Beane got here to the Bills, he had a lot of work to do to change the reputation of the organization. And I think he did it pretty quickly. By the time 2020 rolled around, the Bills were a up-and-coming destination team. So in 3 seasons as GM, he managed to change the reputation of not just a franchise in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of operational reputation. The Bengals have the exact opposite. Where, I mean, Chris, you looked up the list. They've been doing this for a long time. 2008, Keith Rivers, 9th overall pick, holds out 10 days into camp. 2009, Andre Smith, 30-day holdout into training camp. Why? Both cases, it was just nonsense language in the contracts.
Yeah, that's also when you didn't have that rookie scale.
Yep. And what sucks is that it's the same owner, right? The owner / GM / Nepo hires that kind of run the place. They're not going anywhere. Unlike the Bills, like Brandon Beane will eventually either get fired or take a promotion or just retire. One of those 3 things will happen and the Bills franchise will continue moving. The Brown family is never going to go away. Bengals fans are stuck with them. And I think that it's funny that Shamar Stewart's holdout comes amid all these conversations that are happening right now. You know, per Adam Schefter, there's conversations going on about the salary cap and whether the rules need to be changed because there's some owners, the ones who are flush with cash, are using void years to maybe gain an advantage in free agency that some other teams might not have. When I hear that, the thing I think is that it's inherently funny, like objectively funny, that some billionaires are mad at other billionaires because some of them are being cheap and then whining about it. Mike Brown of the Bengals being one of them. He's one of the most notorious cheapskates in NFL history. And it's not surprising that they've had so much conflict with first-round picks over the years because that's their culture. And so at a time when that kid doesn't have a contract, Chris, when you're not a winning team and you're not winning, you don't have a pedigree or a culture in terms of trust in an organization that they're going to do right by a player, then you have to write checks. That's the name of the game. And if you don't want to do either of those, that's how 2 of your most important defensive players end up holding out at the same time along the same lines. Almost like I could see them pointing at each other like the Spider-Man meme. Like, wait, yes. You're a defensive end holding out on the Bengals?
Well, the Andre Smith one, 2009, that is the last draft where rookies got paid an absurd amount of money. And then 2010 is when they introduced that rookie wage scale.
I guarantee you Mike Brown fought tooth and nail for that.
Yeah.
It's just we should all be thankful of the culture that's been promoted here and the individuals like Terrence Gray who play a key role in that. So, Chris, raise a glass to Terrence Gray, helping us not be the Bengals since 2022.
You should grab a glass and give a rip to this JTS Brown bottled and bond. $17.
Now, here's what we can toast to. Here's to the Buffalo Bills being favored in every single game this year. This is probably the most newsworthy thing of the evening. Cheers. That's not bad. It's drinkable. Much more than the Dant.
Yeah. I like it. This doesn't have as much, because you're going to hate me for this. That thing over there, JW Dant, is a vanilla bomb. This has vanilla in it, very subtle.
So the Bills, Chris. Now, the callback to those of you who have already watched our live show that aired earlier in the week, kind of a callback here. Do we buy and sell the idea that this is going to be one of the most successful Bills seasons in recent history? Like a year after Emmanuel Acho really laid into us about not having any future, not having any hope. He's now kissing the ring. He's not even kissing the ring, Chris. He's taking the 2-knee approach from Independence Day because it puts the ass cheeks right in front of you. That's what he's doing with the Buffalo Bills. When you hear that we're favored in every single game, like, what do you think about that?
I mean, obviously that's not true. I mean, yeah, we're favored in every game. Are we going to win every game? Absolutely not. I mean, now you just got to find our trap games where we're going to fucking lose. But it's a lot of people on Twitter are, I think, blowing this out of proportion that, you know, like it means something being favored in every game in May. We still got to get to the preseason. Injuries are going to happen.
Sure.
The regular season. I don't care that we're favored in every game in May.
It is interesting, though, when you take a look at how because, again, Vegas handicappers don't just do this for shits and giggles. This isn't you and me down here prognosticating things in your basement. There's real money on the line for this, and these handicappers get paid a lot of money to do it. So it does give you some insight. Like, remember when everybody was high on the Bills not competing in the AFC East in terms of the media, but then Vegas was like, I don't know, we're still going to put Kansas City and Buffalo in the top 4 for odds for the Super Bowl. And then they end up playing in the AFC Championship game.
I remember last year there's a time in August where the Jets were favored to win the division.
Mm-hmm. So every now and again, they get it wrong, but it's the concept that, you know, Vegas, I trust the idea of Vegas more so than anything else. More so than pundits, more so than podcasters, more so than radio personalities. There's some historicals here and some comps that I want to talk about because I find that really interesting. First of all, this is the second time for Buffalo since 1960 that we've been favored to win every game.
Was the other time 1990?
No. It was 2022. Now, remember how you just got done saying, we're not going to win them all, even if we're favored to win them all, and blah, blah, blah. Our record overall that year was 13-3.
Was that the first one? 13-3 with McDermott?
Yes. But we were 8-7-1 against the spread. And that's where gambling gets fun. Like, we've got to find, I know Sean, our friend Sean out there
in Vegas.
He's got to help hook us up with the gambling expert of his there, because I think this could be fascinating to talk about in season. Do a segment each week just about against the spread and follow some of these things, because I'm always fascinated by this. I had a friend of mine who ran book for a hot minute. I may or may not have participated. That's
no, we've heard that.
The veterans of the podcast already know that story. So he pointed out to me how every Monday Night Football game, he goes, think about it. Every team that should win won for 9 straight weeks, but only 2 of them covered the spread. He's like, that's how Vegas makes all its money. And so it's interesting to see a Buffalo Bills team that was favored in every single game in 2022 went 13-3, but almost right down the middle in terms of how they did. So, Chris, what makes more sense then? Knowing that, would you be more apt to play the money line?
Yeah, I would. I'm there. I would love to. I don't know how often I bet on the Bills in 2022. I do remember. I'm looking at the season this year, but there was the Fail Mary. I'll tell you, the Fail Mary. I won like $500 the day before on college football, and then I bet games for the NFL on Sunday in a parlay that would have totaled like another $600, and I had the Bills like on the point spread, and the Fail Mary ruined my parlay for having a weekend where I could have won like $1,200. That's a 2022 schedule right there.
Yeah. I mean, the loss to the Jets, like, that sucked. The loss in overtime to the overtime loss to the Vikings. Like, those were the 2 games. Josh gets hurt. And then he comes out and plays it. We play the Vikings, and everyone's like, will he, won't he? Like, what's going to happen? And then it's crazy. We just rattled off a whole bunch of wins. Just a whole bunch of wins on the way down. The Bills are minus 750 to qualify for the playoffs. Minus 750 to make the playoffs this year. They're one of the NFL's biggest bets to make the playoffs. And here's why, Chris, because I mean, you take a look at their core, like their comps in the AFC. Kansas City is favored in almost every game, just not the one in Buffalo. I think they're like 2.5 point underdogs. Baltimore, 15 of 17. They're favored in 15 of their 17 games and all of their final 13. So it's clear in the minds of sports handicappers, the AFC still stacks up the way that we as fans see it. Bills, Chiefs, Ravens. If you want to throw the Bengals in there, I found this interesting. They're favored in 10 out of their 17 games. Out of the games that they're not favored in, they only have 2 where they're more than a 3-point underdog. Baltimore and Buffalo. So this is a Baltimore team that has they drop a couple disappointing ones every year. Losing to the Patriots last year probably cost them a playoff spot. But every game for them, they're either favored or it's close. So I think the betting community might be higher on the Bengals than some people in NFL content communities. But then you wonder why the Bills are kind of the prohibitive favorite across the entire league to make the playoffs. It's got to be what goes on inside of our division, right?
Yeah.
We're 5-time AFC champions. When you take a look at how Vegas views the rest of our division, it's pretty bad. First of all, New England made the biggest jump from 0 to hero from last year to this year. They were not favored in a single game last year en route to having a top 5 pick in the draft. They're now favored in 11 of their 17 games, and they're favored at home. They are favored against the Dolphins, and they're favored in both of their matchups with the Jets. I think that, Chris, you combine that with the primetime games that team gets. Why is everyone so high on the Patriots?
Well, it's coaching. Mike Vrabel's going to make a fucking difference. He's not going to be in the back of the plane shooting dice with Ashley Larry. That's not a thing that's going to happen.
This is what I'll tell you. He's also, you know what else he's not going to do is admit publicly that the season went by too fast for him to implement some of the things he wanted to do.
Correct.
You can't say that out loud. Even if it's the truth, you get fired for admitting that. It is noteworthy that for the New England Patriots, there's only 2 games. Cleveland and the Jets, where their favorite is more than the traditional 3 points for being a home team. The 4 of their other games are pretty much a pick 'em. You're the home team, but it's a 1.5 point spread.
Yep.
That
Pick 'em.
game, that's a pick 'em. Then you've got the Jets. They're favored in 2 of their 17 games. With Justin Fields at quarterback, you'd think they would have gotten a little bit of a bump from last year, right?
Yeah.
2 of 17. Vegas is not buying the Justin Fields to the New York Jets. They're not buying it at all. And their only 2 games that they're favored in are the Panthers and Browns at home. That's embarrassing. And I think the most interesting out of the division is actually the candidate for the biggest regression, and that's the Miami Dolphins. You take a look at it and how this schedule kind of lays out for him. According to BetMGM, the odds and the betting action are all heavily slanted towards the Dolphins finishing under 8.5 wins for the season. 4 times this upcoming season, they're going to be an underdog of more than 5.5 points or more. And then when you look at the schedule compared to the way it lays out, Chris, look at that schedule there. So it's on the road against the Patriots, Tampa Bay in Miami, Cincinnati in Miami, and then Miami in Pittsburgh. They're not favored in any of their final 4 games of the season.
That's a rough stretch.
How much of that do you think is a byproduct of Vegas just being like, look, we're not going to get fooled by the Dolphins again? Every time December rolls around, that team is a shuffling corpse.
Yeah.
And this year, they may have arguably the thinnest roster they've put on a field in the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Still got Liam Eichenberg.
Yes, they do. It's also noteworthy that for all the times that they've been underdogs, last year, Chris, they were dogs 8 times, and they only won 2 of those games. That's a 25% win percentage. This is something I can sink my teeth into. The idea that the Miami Dolphins, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be good. Baltimore is going to be good. The Cincinnati Bengals are probably going to be, their defense will suck, but they'll score enough points that it probably still keeps them in the picture. Who else in the AFC is dangerous?
I would probably bring up the Chargers. Or is Denver going to be able to build on what they got with Bo Nix and Sean Payton? I mean, didn't the Chargers drafted Omari and Hampton, right, in the first round this year? So you a running back for Harbaugh to work with Ladd McConkey in his second year, and Herbert another year under Harbaugh's offense. I think the Chargers will be able to stick around. If you listen to my guy Colin Cowherd is already claiming Chargers for the division.
Who does the AFC West play this year? Like what other division? See if you can figure that out, because I'm looking at the numbers here now. The Chargers are favored in 13 of their games right now. Broncos are projected to be favored in 12 out of 17. They must play some real soup cans because their own division is actually probably the most competitive in the entire AFC. I mean, if you're talking about having the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Chiefs all in the same division, there's going to be some attrition there. I mean, the Chiefs were two.
AFC West plays the AFC South.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you get Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indianapolis.
Yeah, so you've got the weakest of the AFC divisions, although the AFC East might count as part of that. I mean, by comparison, there really is no cannibalism that takes place, or at least none that affects the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East right now. None proven anyway. At the top of the show, we were talking about how Emmanuel Acho had nothing but glowing things to say about the Bills after, just a year removed from absolutely trashing us and saying we had no hope. It's funny that you haven't heard much in the way of positivity about either the Dolphins or the Jets this offseason by the national media, have you?
Mm-mm.
How much of that do you think is not fueled by, but also kind of, they look at Vegas and go, shit, well, if Vegas thinks that the Fields Jets aren't going to be good, and we've already learned our lesson about backing the Miami Dolphins, maybe we should all just quiet down on this front.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It would, but see, in order for that to happen, it would mean that the national media is capable of learning something. I know they're not, so it's only a matter of time. But it is interesting that out of these teams, the Bills, out of all these teams who appear to be highly qualified on paper, right now the Bills are being heavily bet on anyway and handicapped as being the best team in the AFC.
It's still the Chiefs.
It's
I hate to say it.
It's uncomfortable.
It's still, until you knock off the Chiefs, it's the Chiefs, and the Bills got to knock them off if they want to be.
Well, we're going to get a chance. We're going to get an opportunity in the only game that the Chiefs aren't favored in this year, and I do like that. It's interesting, and I can't wait to dig more throughout the course of the summer into the betting lines, do some prop bets. I think we've got some fun segments lined up for the off season on this. But with that said, guys, for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rock Pile Report.